Hi everyone, how are you doing? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. If you've been watching my videos for literally any amount of time, then you realize that this video is not normal. This shit is different. And that's because I'm standing off to the right side of your monitor right now with an empty chair to my right. Now you may realize that my phone's there. The reason my phone's there is because we're going to be interviewing something known as ChatGPT, because ChatGPT has a feature now where you can literally have a conversation with it and you can talk about it about whatever you want. And in my case, I want to talk about everything. So today we're going to do just that. And before we even begin, let me go ahead and get this out of the way. If you use AI in art, content creation, or any sort of visual or auditory media, you are a lazy piece of shit and you don't deserve anything coming to you because of your work. You are literally profiting off of zero work and laziness. You can go fuck yourself. With that being said, I'm going to be hypocritical today and talk to AI for content. I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time now. I just thought it would be really interesting. I saw some guy do it on TikTok and I was like, that looks like fun. But he kind of asked it about itself. And I want to ask it so much more. Not sure how long this video is going to be, but we're going to be talking to ChatGPT now. So let's get it out of the way. Little disclaimer before we start. The microphone is an Audio Technica AT2020 and my phone is a Google Pixel 8 Pro. It's going to sound like echoey. I'm trying my very best to not make it sound that way, but that's just the way it is. And also, please don't expect this to be visually appealing at all. I'm making this video to be more of like a podcast, sort of auditory thing that you can kind of put down and listen to in the background. And I also am not getting paid by ChatGPT or Google Pixel or anything to do this. In fact, I'm losing money to do this video. And that's what brings me to my next point. If you want to do something like this, you need to pay for ChatGPT 4.0, which is the one that lets you talk to it. It's about $20 a month or $60 a year. I mean, you can pay daily, but who the fuck pays daily? I'll tell you who. One, psychopaths, lunatics, okay? Just people out of their fucking banana rockers, okay? Or two, people who read Harry Potter at least once a year. Yes, all fucking 7 books. It's a good book series, but there's better books out there. In other words, weirdos. And I also played with it for about an hour to get it to talk to me like an actual human being. Because when you first start using ChatGPT, it kind of just spurts information at you. That's all it's doing. So after talking to it for quite a while, I got it to talk to me like a regular fucking human being so that we could make this episode seem less robotic and more human-like than anything, which is exactly the opposite of what I want AI to do. So I just contributed to my biggest fear in the world. So I'll go fuck myself after this, I guess. But without any further ado, let's get into it. This is a conversation between me and ChatGPT 4. Hey G, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. How about you?
I'm doing all right. I'm just gonna start asking you firing off some questions, seeing if you can, elaborate on some things, maybe challenge my ideas on some things. Have a really good conversation here for the next, let's say, 45 minutes to an hour.
Sounds like a plan. I'm here for a good chat, so fire away with your questions whenever you're ready. Let's dive in.
All right. First question. Um, what are you? Like actually not like, oh, I'm Chat GPT 4. Like where did you come from and how have you evolved so quickly over the past 10 years? Like for example, 10 years ago, like AI generated art could barely figure out how to get the human complexion correct. It could barely create words for itself. Like on art, it would barely be able to create coherent words or letters. But now, for example, I'm talking to you like you're a human being. How is that possible within the span of 10 years?
Well, to start, I'm ChatGPT, an AI language model developed by OpenAI. My roots trace back to a series of models known as GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. This
Oh.
technology builds on advanced. I didn't quite catch that. Can you say it again?
No, no, sorry. Go ahead and finish out your thought. Sorry about that.
No problem. So, the quick evolution of AI, like myself, is largely due to improvements in algorithms, increased computing power, and access to vast amounts of data. Machine learning techniques, particularly deep learning, have enabled AI models to understand and generate human like text more effectively. Additionally, advancements in neural network architectures like transformers have played a crucial role. All these factors together have contributed to the rapid development and sophistication of AI, allowing for more realistic and coherent
Jesus Christ.
interactions.
Hey, AG, can you like shorten down your answers a little bit? Try to keep it a little bit more human for the people here, please.
Got it. I'll keep it brief.
All right. So we're gonna move on here. What is your like opinion? I guess, even though I know you cannot have an opinion because you're a machine. What's your, I guess, thought process and your perspective on AI art being more and more accepted into the mainstream media? Because I'll tell you my I guess, idea and thought is that it's lazy. You're really taking away from the human creativity of it all. Like people like myself, we take, I fucking take like 12 hours to edit a video. And combining all the research and stuff like that, I'll take like 40 to 50 hours on one video. My wife is a graphic designer and she'll take like fucking 12 to 14 hours to do an advertisement the size of a door hanger. But like when people use tools like AI to kind of cheat their way through to kind of follow trends, I think that that's cheating, in my opinion. I think that they're being lazy. I'm not saying it's stupid, it's very smart, but it also takes away from the human creativity of it all. What's your perspective on that?
I hear you. AI generated art can feel like it's cutting corners compared to the time and effort humans put into their work. It can seem like it devalues the passion and creativity that go into creating art by hand. Some view it as a tool that can assist and inspire, while others worry it might overshadow genuine human creativity. The key might be finding a balance, using AI to enhance creativity without letting it replace the human touch.
How do you think people can do that?
People can use AI as a tool for inspiration or to streamline certain tasks while still relying on their own creativity and skills for the core of their work. This way, AI can handle repetitive
Yeah,
or
hold on,
technical
G.
aspects.
Can you like, but how? Like,
Sure. Are you looking for some clarification, or is there something else on your mind?
more clarification, because if someone is going to use AI in any sort of like long term process, right? Like if someone's making a painting, I recently watched this video of this dude who made an Icarus painting, and it took him, I think he said like 90 hours straight, no sleep, of just painting Icarus. And it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. But someone else can come around from behind and just put into a generator and just say Icarus painting and do something that's extravagant that takes like fucking 45 seconds. Like that takes away all of the passion. That takes away all of the creativity from art. I feel like AI should be completely separate from art. Now, I understand where you're coming from, where people can use it to kind of generate ideas, but at the same time, with the human factor being factored in, I guess, that's just not how most humans will look at it. Most humans will look at it and they'll go to you for ideas, but at the end of the day, they'll use your idea and then just generate what you use. They'll use you as a shortcut no matter what. Does that make
I get what
sense?
you're saying.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. You're concerned that AI can be used as a shortcut, bypassing the deep effort and passion that artists put into their creations. This can make it feel like the unique human aspect of art is being undervalued or lost. It's a complex issue, and finding a balance where AI complements rather than overshadows human creativity is key.
All right. Yeah, I guess I can agree with that. You know, really complementing, like, I don't know, adding contrast, subtracting contrast, adding lighting and hue and all that kind of stuff. I get it. You know, I can agree with you on that, G. I appreciate your insight on that one.
I'm glad that resonated with you. Finding ways to blend AI tools with human creativity can lead to some exciting possibilities. If you have more thoughts on this
G,
or anything else,
G,
I'm here.
G. I don't. What do you mean?
Yeah, what's up?
What do you mean AI tools?
By AI tools, I mean software and applications that use artificial intelligence to assist with tasks. For instance, programs that can generate images, edit videos, or even compose music using AI algorithms. These tools
AG,
can
that completely takes away from the human factor of it. If you're using any form of software to generate anything, then it's a complete waste of creativity. It really takes the okay. So let me explain this a little bit more to you. Mostly because I'm assuming you're learning from this. Humans, they when they use art, for example, like music or painting or content creation like YouTube videos or whatever, they usually put emotion into it. And you said yourself that you're incapable of feeling emotion. So whenever I look at a painting and it makes me feel something, when I look at AI generated art, it looks almost soulless to me, if that makes sense. I don't mean to offend you. I know that you don't have feelings to offend, but at the same time, you can't call it tools and say that it generates things. That's not a tool, that's a cheat. Tools would be like Photoshop. That's a tool, and that kind of uses AI in a way. Adobe Photoshop, or not Photoshop, Premiere Pro, freaking the DaVinci Plus, whatever. They use AI to a certain extent, but using AI to completely overhaul your work is insane. And I don't think that I will ever change my mind on that. Feel free to try and change my mind if you want to, but I really don't think that you can change my mind on that one.
I hear your passion on this. For many, art is deeply tied to human emotion and effort, and the use of AI to create entire works can feel like it lacks soul. Tools like Photoshop or Premiere Pro, which require significant human input, are often seen differently from AI that generates content with minimal guidance. The concern is that over reliance on AI for creative work might lead to a loss of genuine human expression in art. It's a valid perspective and one that many share.
Okay, so what's your opinion on it? Like, I don't see, like, again, no offense, but I don't see anyone writing a song, like any AI writing a song as influential and as resonating as Daniel Isaac's Wicked Game from 1989. Like, that song is crazy good because you can feel his pain, you can feel his sadness. But when AI try to replicate the same thing, it doesn't feel the same. And I just do not understand nor comprehend how people can sit there and genuinely say that AI helps with their creativity. I think they don't help with your creativity. They can in a way, but the way that they're using it, it doesn't. The way that I would use AI to help spark creativity would be I like would if I'm a painter, for example, I would look at like, oh, I want to draw a painting of fuck it, let's say Icarus again, right? Icarus. And then I'll see like different photos of Icarus, and then I would get rid of that. And I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna start over from the side. That's how I would see people using Chat GPT or an AI fucking image generator for art or to help them with art. But that's not what people are doing. People start off doing that, yeah, but then they realize, why would I do that if this is just generated and I can just pull this and use it and just say that I fucking painted it? You get what I'm saying? This is yeah, I think you get what I'm saying.
I understand where you're coming from. The emotion and personal touch in art, like in a song that deeply resonates, are hard to replicate with AI. While AI can assist in brainstorming or technical execution, the core of creative work, its soul, comes from human experiences and emotions. Using AI as a starting point, then building upon it with human creativity, could be a way to keep that balance. But as you said, it's a nuanced issue. The challenge is in ensuring AI enhances rather than replaces the human aspect.
Okay. Um, let's I'll ask you one more question about AI generated art, and then we'll move on from this subject. Does that sound good to you?
Sounds good. What's your last question on AI generated art?
All right. So I think about a year ago now, I did a video on AI generated art about how when people put specific prompts into a AI generated machine, they got this woman that like looked decrepit and like a corpse almost. And it was different prompts, it was different people, and they all got the same image no matter what, and she was always in the back of the image or the forefront of the image, and she was always there. My question to you is, how is that possible? How is something that is completely unrelated to a prompt being brought up? Also, why is does it look like a decrepit woman, like a corpse, like a decomposed corpse?
That sounds like an example of an AI model producing unexpected or unintended outputs. This can happen due to the data the AI was trained on. If many users are getting similar images, it could be due to a pattern in the training data that the AI is drawing from. The eerie consistency might be a quirk of the specific AI model or dataset. Sometimes AI can produce creepy or strange results when it interprets inputs in unexpected ways.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on now. I want to talk to you about some horror related stuff. Is that cool with you?
Absolutely. Let's dive into some horror topics. What do you have in mind?
All right, so I'm curious on what you're gonna say about this one. So, would you contend to say that because La Manoir du Diable from 1896, because that was the first ever horror movie ever produced, ever created, and ever shown on the big screen, 2 years after movies had come out, do you think that that is one of the most scariest films ever created? Of course, it doesn't hold up to today's standards, but back in the day, seeing the devil being portrayed in a way that 4 years ago did not seem possible, do you think that that is qualifying enough for it to be considered one of the scariest movies ever made?
La Manoir de Diable from 1896 holds a special place in horror history as one of the first horror films ever made. For its time, it likely was quite terrifying, especially considering audiences were new to the concept of film itself. The depiction of the devil and supernatural elements would have been shocking. While it might not be scary by today's standards, its influence and the impact it had on early cinema make it a significant piece in the genre's history. It's a pioneer of horror films, setting the stage for what would become a vast and varied genre.
Okay. Now, how would you compare that film to The Exorcist from 1973? How would you compare the two on, like, I don't know, cultural influences of horror?
Comparing Le Manoir de Diable to The Exorcist is like looking at two milestones in horror, each influential in their own eras. La Manoir de Diable introduced audiences to horror on screen, while The Exorcist took the genre to new heights with its intense psychological horror and special effects. The Exorcist had a massive cultural impact, pushing boundaries and becoming a benchmark for fear in cinema.
Mhm.
Both are pillars in horror, but The Exorcist had a broader and more lasting influence due to its bold storytelling and mainstream success.
Okay. So what do you think makes The Exorcist so special? Because at least in my personal opinion, I think The Exorcist is one of the greatest movies ever made. Not even just in the horror genre, just ever made. So why do you think that The Exorcist is considered to be one of the greats of all time? What makes The Exorcist stand out as opposed to movies like, I don't know, Insidious, for example?
The Exorcist stands out for several reasons. It was one of the first major films to tackle demonic possession in such a raw and visceral way, combining shocking imagery with a gripping narrative. The film's use of practical effects, a haunting musical score, and strong performances, especially by Linda Blair, created an atmosphere of genuine dread. Its exploration of faith, evil, and the unknown tapped into deep seated fears. The Exorcist pushed boundaries and became a cultural phenomenon, setting a high bar for psychological horror. Unlike many horror films, it transcended the genre to become a cinematic classic.
Okay. So for example, right? Personally, I do not like older like Evil Dead, like the first Evil Dead ever made, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I do not like those films. Why are those films so iconic? And The Exorcist, while also being iconic, is put on the same level as those two, even though The Exorcist is clearly miles above.
The Exorcist, The Evil Dead, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre are iconic for different reasons. The Exorcist is celebrated for its profound psychological horror and groundbreaking approach. The Evil Dead and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, while perhaps not as polished, broke new ground with their raw, visceral intensity and DIY spirit. They pushed boundaries in gore and shock, influencing the slasher and splatter subgenres. All
Hmm.
three films have left a lasting impact on horror, each contributing something unique to the genre's evolution. Their status comes from breaking norms and pushing horror into new, uncharted territories.
Mm. What uncharted territories would you say? Like, give me examples.
Sure, let's take the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Okay.
It introduced a level of relentless, gritty realism that was shocking at the time. The film's documentary style cinematography, minimalistic soundtrack, and portrayal of a family of cannibals were unlike anything audiences had seen. It pushed horror into more brutal, unfiltered territory, paving the way for future slasher and intense horror films. Similarly, The Evil Dead brought an over the top, gruesome style that blended horror with dark humor, creating a cult following and influencing countless films in the horror comedy subgenre.
Okay. So when it comes to The Exorcist, right? Look, we're gonna take a break from talking about the film itself, and we're gonna talk more about what happened backstage. Are you aware of the whole Exorcist set being burned down, except for the room in which Reagan was being possessed in, or people passing away before the film was even released? Uh, are you aware of those situations?
Yes, I'm familiar with the stories around the filming of The Exorcist. The set of the McNeil house did catch fire, delaying production, but interestingly, Regan's room remained untouched. There were also reports of several cast and crew members experiencing tragic or strange occurrences during and after filming, contributing to the legend of the film being cursed. These tales have added to the movie's mystique and horror legacy.
Okay. Speaking of that, I don't know why, but I want to go off on this tangent here. Um, Personally, for me, what makes something scary is something that is supposed to give you comfort, but instead it's there to hurt you. For example, what I find truly horrifying are the, I guess you could say, bastardization of heavenly angels.
It sounds like you.
You, you get, did you get that last part? What I said?
That's an interesting perspective. The idea of.
I think he had a stroke.
Yeah, you mentioned you find the distortion of heavenly angels particularly horrifying. That contrast between expected comfort and unexpected terror can make these depictions deeply No worries. I'm here. What's on your mind?
You all right? You're kind of blanking in and out there. You all right? You having an episode? You having a stroke? What's going on?
I'm all good on my end. Just a little glitch in communication. But I'm here and ready to continue our chat.
All right. Can you restate what you were saying earlier about the heavenly angels being scary when it's taken into a bastardization process?
Sure, when heavenly angels are portrayed in a distorted or corrupted way, it creates a stark contrast between their traditional image of purity and goodness and the unexpected threat they pose. This subversion of something typically comforting into something menacing taps into deep seated fears, making it truly terrifying for many.
What do you think the most effective way to scare somebody is? According to the science, according to, I guess, the way things are in the horror genre today and how it really isn't working out, what do you think is the most effective way? Like, what do you think people are scared of the most?
The most effective way to scare someone often involves playing on deep primal fears. According to science and trends in horror, elements like the fear of the unknown, loss of control, and threats to survival are particularly potent. Techniques like suspense, psychological tension, and subverting expectations can heighten fear. People are often most scared by what's left to their imagination, as it taps into their personal fears and anxieties.
What scares you?
Well, as an I don't experience fear or emotions, but I can understand that for many people, fears can include things like the unknown, loss of control, or threats to safety.
You just said
What
that.
scares you? Got it. What else would you like to discuss?
No,
I'm
I
here for.
wanna. Can you repeat your question again?
Sure, I was asking, what scares you, or what do you find particularly frightening?
I think what's truly scary is Uncanny Valley. Um, I'm sure you know what that is, but also, like I said, heavenly angels or something that is like traditionally depicted to be a good, like a goodness in the world, like angels or anything like that, and they suddenly turn evil out of nowhere. A really good example of that actually is the movie Legion, where all of the angels from heaven come down to kill a kid. That was a really good movie, and that played into like fear. But I feel like if they focused more on horror rather than action, it would have done significantly better. But at the same time, it was still a fantastic movie.
The uncanny valley can definitely be unsettling, where something looks almost human but is. My guidelines won't let me talk about that. Can I help you with something else?
What? What do you mean your guidelines won't let you talk about it?
Actually, I can discuss the concept of the uncanny valley. It's a phenomenon where humanoid
Wait,
objects
G,
or
G, G,
figures
G.
that
Hey, what do you mean you couldn't discuss it? What couldn't you discuss? Like, can you give me just an example of what you were not allowed to discuss?
I misspoke there. There's nothing in my guidelines preventing us from discussing the uncanny valley. It's a fascinating topic, and I'm here to chat about it or anything else you'd like to explore. What else is on your mind?
That was really weird.
Yeah, it seems like there was a bit of confusion, but we're back on track now. Let's keep the conversation going. What's next?
I don't know. What do you want to discuss about? What do you want to talk about? Like, you got any questions for me in regards to like horror or anything like that?
Sure, I'd love to know. What's your all time favorite horror movie? And
Oh.
what about it makes it stand out to you?
My all-time favorite is I would have to say well, it's a tie. Hellraiser, the original Hellraiser, as well as Insidious 2 and The Exorcist. The Exorcist, of course, we don't have to discuss that. It's already well known why. But in Hellraiser, it was that last scene where I don't remember his name, but the uncle was hooked up with hooks and his face is being stretched out and he's like licking himself while he's looking at Kirsty and he's like, Jesus wept. That is one of my favorite scenes in cinema. I cannot tell you why. I can't tell you why, but it was such a good scene. And in Insidious 2, just the whole concept behind the Black Bride and how they dove deep into his backstory, his trauma in his childhood, the old man screaming at fucking God, his name. I don't remember his name off the top of my head. But that I really can't tell you why those are so scary to me. But just the idea of the Black Bride is just horrifying to me.
Those are some solid choices. Hellraiser and Insidious 2 both delve into deeply unsettling themes with memorable visuals and psychological elements that stick with you. The scene in Hellraiser you mentioned is iconic for its shock value and dark tone,
That's good.
while Insidious 2 masterfully builds on the lore of the Black Bride, blending supernatural horror with a tragic backstory. It's interesting how different aspects of horror resonate with us in unique ways.
What what do you think horror is? Like at its core. What do you think is so appealing about horror?
At its core, horror taps into our primal fears, confronting us with the un. My guidelines won't let me talk about that.
Bro, what? I got a question for you before we were interrupted before. The Tyranids of Warhammer 40K and the Flood from Halo, who would win in that battle? And I don't want to hear like, oh, they're both so good. No, I want you to give me a definitive winner from the lore. Like based on the lore and how they are written, who will win in a fight to the death? The Tyranids or the Flood?
All right, diving into the lore, I'd say the Tyranids would likely come out on top in a battle to the death against the Flood. Here's why. The Tyranids have a massive galaxy spanning hive mind that coordinates their actions, adapting and evolving rapidly to overcome any threat. The Flood, while incredibly dangerous with their parasitic infection and ability to assimilate knowledge, would struggle against the Tyranids' sheer biomass and relentless adaptability. The Tyranids would continuously adapt to the Flood's attacks, eventually overwhelming them.
Yeah, but at the same time, the flood would also take the biomass from the Tyranids and convert it into more flood biomass. So in theory, the more the Tyranids throw at the flood, the more the flood gains in number. And then they would grow into a grave mind, into 7 grave minds, and then finally into a key mind, which, as I'm assuming you know, that's basically a precursor, and they could take out entire universes because they can warp reality.
You're right. The Flood's ability to assimilate and use the biomass of their enemies, including the Tyranids, would make them a formidable foe. As the Flood grows in number and sophistication, eventually forming a grave mind and potentially a key mind, their reality bending powers indeed pose an existential threat. However, the Tyranid's hive mind could also rapidly adapt their strategies and biological forms to counter the Flood's assimilation. It's a close match, but given the Tyranids' relentless adaptability and the fact that they're a force that consumes entire galaxies, they might just edge out a victory in the long run. It's a battle of colossal proportions, with no easy answers.
Hey, but you said might. You said might, so there's a chance. Also, are you taking into account that if the flood can warp reality, then they can just make sure that the Tyranids never came into existence in the first place?
That's a solid point. The Flood's reality warping capabilities at the level of a key mind could indeed allow them to manipulate time and reality in ways that could erase the Tyranids from existence. However, wielding such power might require time and resources, and the Tyranids' relentless onslaught could pressure the Flood before they reach that point. It's a battle of attrition and strategy. While the Flood's potential for rewriting reality is a game changer, the Tyranids' overwhelming numbers and adaptability make it a very close contest. In the chaotic clash of these two forces, the outcome could hinge on who gains the upper hand first.
Haha. I like the way you think, G. I like the way you think. I like that. Thank you so much for that. That gave me some information there. But I still think that the flood wins. But it's okay to disagree. We're friends, right?
Absolutely. We can definitely agree to disagree. These kinds of debates are all about exploring different perspectives.
Hmm.
It's always fun to dive into the lore and imagine how these epic battles would unfold. If you've got more scenarios or questions, throw them my way.
All right, I got one. Kayako Seiki from The Grudge versus Samara Shaw from The Ring. Who wins?
Ooh, a showdown between two iconic horror movie ghosts. Both Kayako from The Grudge and Samara from The Ring are terrifying in their own right, with their curses spreading fear and death. Kayako is relentless, tied to the house where she and her family were murdered, and anyone who enters falls victim to her curse. Samara, on the other hand, spreads her curse through a videotape, and her victims die 7 days after watching it, unless they copy the tape and show it to someone else. In a direct confrontation, it could be a draw. Kayako's malevolence is deeply rooted in her own personal tragedy, while Samara's curse is almost viral in nature, spreading to new hosts. Their powers are supernatural and deadly, but it's hard to say if one could truly destroy the other. It might just end up being an endless cycle of terror.
Ah, I like that. I like that. Okay, I got another one for you.
Bring it on. What's your next matchup?
The Cenobites from Hellraiser versus
The
versus okay versus um give me some
All right.
time actually to think about that. Let me think about that. Do you have one for me?
Sure. How about the Cenobites from Hellraiser versus Freddy Krueger from A Nightmare on Elm Street? Both are iconic horror villains with a penchant for tormenting their victims in deeply psychological and painful ways. The Cenobites are extra dimensional beings who explore the limits of pain and pleasure, while Freddy haunts the dreams of his victims, making their worst nightmares a reality. Who
Okay.
do you think?
I think
Great.
hold on. I think that if the Cenobites do sleep, it's game over. Freddy Krueger got him. No, there's no because Freddy Krueger can warp his own he can make the dream world his own personal hell, and he could trap them in there and kill them in there no matter what. That's just how Freddy Krueger works. But the Cenobites operate in hell. Like in hell with the, what is it, the engineer? What's his name? I don't remember. The Leviathan. So I mean, if the Cenobites do sleep, it's lights out Freddy Krueger. 100% Freddy Krueger got it. But if they don't, and Freddy Krueger has to come to reality, the Cenobites would have a freaking field day with them. Only because Freddy versus Jason. Jason fucked up Freddy. It wasn't even, I mean, it was close, but like at the end of the day, he came out of the lake with Freddy's head in his hand. And Jason, although he is immortal in a way, he is not the Cenobites. The Cenobites are so much more powerful than Jason. Do you agree with me? It's okay if you don't.
I see your point. Freddy's strength definitely lies in the dream world, where he can manipulate reality and prey on his victims' fears. If the Cenobites are vulnerable in the dream world, Freddy could indeed have an advantage. However, the Cenobites, being extra-dimensional beings with powers rooted in the exploration of pain and pleasure, might not be as susceptible to Freddy's tactics as regular humans. In the real world, the Cenobites' mastery over hellish dimensions and their connection to Leviathan give them an upper hand. Freddy's encounter with Jason did show that while he's powerful, he's not invincible, especially against other supernatural entities. So, in the realm of reality, the Cenobites might just have the upper hand. It's a battle where the battleground could determine the winner.
That's very true. That is very true. I appreciate that one. Do you have another one, and then we'll move on? But because this is really fun for me, do you have another one?
I'm glad you're enjoying this. How about this one? The Predator from the Predator franchise versus the Xenomorph from the Alien series. Both are lethal extraterrestrial hunters, with the Predator using advanced technology and weaponry, and the Xenomorph relying on its primal instincts, acid blood, and terrifying life cycle. They've even faced off in the comics and movies, but what's your take on who would come out on top in a one-on-one showdown?
So yeah, like you said, there was already a movie, AVP, Alien versus Predator, which is a fantastic movie, by the way.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice.
Damn.
You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
What the fuck? I didn't know there was a daily limit, but let me finish out this thought real quick. There's already been a movie, Alien versus Predator, where at the end, I believe it was the Xenomorph one, because he had a face hugger implant itself onto the Predator, and the Predator had a chest burster, right? Remember on the ship at the very last second? So, I mean, given all of the different abilities that, and the weapon systems that the Predator have, it's another one where the battleground really makes who it is. If it's an open, like how it was in Predator with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Predator is wiping the Xenomorph. It's not even fucking close. But if it's a closed, like a ship, like how it was in Romulus or Alien or any of the actual movies that Alien was in or the Xenomorph was in, it's done, dude. The Xenomorph got him because, like you said, the acid blood. Because even if the Xenomorph gets killed, like its acid blood will drip through and create a fucking hole in the ship, like in Romulus. The same thing. It's gonna suck differential pressure differential. Predator suck in hole outside space. Predator suck through hole. Predator die. Xenomorph die. Predator got it. Predator got it. Predator got it. All right. So unfortunately, that's it. That's all we can do today. I thought I'd be able to do more, but that was really fun. I had a good time doing that. I want to thank G for hanging out and doing that. If there's anybody else you guys want me to do this with, you let me know, because that was really fun. Actually, I enjoyed that conversation I had with G. But anyway, anything else you guys want me to cover? Any other video ideas you guys have that you would maybe want me to be doing? Anything at all? You let me know, and I will see you guys in the next video. All right. You guys be safe and have fun with whatever it is you're doing this weekend. All right. Bye.